Every video and episode of the It's Cavalier podcast is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoy the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos, podcasts, member shoutouts, and more. And as always, thank you for watching. Go Cavs. Welcome to an emergency edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. You guys, I am at work right now. I always carry a microphone with me wherever I go, even if it is not quite as good quality as the one I normally use. I apologize if you hear the ventilation in the background. All I know is that I'm incredibly excited about the news that just came across my phone screens. By now, I'm sure that you have probably seen it by now. It is that Cleveland Cavaliers forward Naquan Tomlin has signed a 2-year, $3 million contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is a player, I think, that from a human perspective, if you're just a fan of basketball in general, you can enjoy this type of news, right? Even if you don't believe that Naquan Tomlin will amount to anything more than a serviceable role player at the NBA level, just making it, considering his journey to the NBA, is phenomenal within its own right. Just such a great story. A guy that didn't play a lick of organized high school hoops and tears it up in New York, right? At Rucker Park in Harlem and at the community college level and at various stops at the college level, and found his way to the NBA via the Cleveland Cavaliers. And before that, the Cleveland Charge, right? The Cavs opted to give this young man, a chance last year and gave him a deal today, which I think had long been signaled, long been something that we had all expected for some time now, long been something that all of us are excited about because of the potential that he brings to the table. And I know that this is quite a raw player that we're talking about here. This is somebody that is still so much a work in progress, especially from beyond the arc as a three-point shot. But I can't help but feel happy, nothing but happiness for the one and only Naquan Tomlin, because he has come such a long way and his basketball journey has been absolutely phenomenal. And it's not like Tomlin is somebody who has lit up the stat sheet this year. He's had his games where he's looked productive from a pure statistical standpoint, but much of what Naquan Tomlin brings to the table comes in the form of energy, hustle, heart. He's out there jawing with the opposition, making sure that he ain't taking nothing. And he is somebody that will stand up right in the opponent's face and let them know, hey, I'm not the one to be messed with. And you need that type of energy if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially out of your young guns out there. And at age 25, in his age 25 season, Naquan Tomlin is deserving of this deal, right? Now, after the deal was made, that sent Lonzo packing to the Utah Jazz, along with two of our second rounders. The doorway was open for Tomlin to be signed to this deal. Now, the Cavaliers obviously stayed within the second apron. They had their first round pick frozen. At this point in time, though, I don't think too many people care, considering the title window that this team is now operating in, with presumably the rest of this season and next year during the James Harden, Donovan Mitchell era. And so they just went ahead and decided to use that open roster spot rather than signing somebody. They gave that to Naquan Tomlin. And I'm happy about that, because I am a big proponent of hard work and hard work paying off. And in this case, this is hard work paying off. Naquan Tomlin this year, through 43 appearances, is putting up an average of 6.5 points, 3.1 rebounds, and assists, and he's shooting 48.7% from the field, including 22.4% from three-point distance. Now, I think the one thing that most people will say about Tomlin in his development right now is all about that three-point shot, because he'll have games where he's not even hitting the rim. They'll decide the backboard. It'll just look off. It'll look terrible. And then he'll have other performances like he did last night against none other than the Denver Nuggets, where he's actually knocking down that three-point shot. And it was vital in a game where he went 2 or 3 from the field, with both of those makes coming from three-point distance. Now, he is not somebody that I expect to be in the day one playoff rotation, but every team in the NBA, especially come the playoffs, needs an energizer buddy. The Cavaliers have a number of them, but Naquan Tomlin perhaps stands out among those guys as the Energizer Bunny, somebody that just runs off of endless fountains of energy out there. And I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very happy about the performance that we have gotten out of Tomlin this year, just because entering the season, I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. One of the things that I thought entering the year is that he was a natural successor to Dean Wade's role on the team. And in a season in which Dean Wade has now become a very important player from a contextual standpoint based on the James Harden deal and the Cavaliers not having enough size in their front court, it made sense why they held on to Dean Wade, and despite the expiring deal that he is on right now. And for Tomlin, that just kind of meant one of two things. One, the Cavaliers would have to make room for him via releasing somebody else, waiving somebody else, or trading somebody else. And they went the Lonzo route to open up that roster spot. And now Tomlin's on the deal. And regardless of whether or not he'll be in the rotation or not come the playoffs, this is a man that's completely deserving of the financials and the contract extension that was just handed to him. So I just couldn't be happier about that. A couple of quick things that I want to point out about Naquan Tomlin really quickly that I think truly stand out. And it's very much supported by the film. It is very much supported by the film. We all know that he is a quality, and when I mean a quality offensive rebounder, I mean that he truly gets up there with the best of them. He is in the 95th percentile among forwards this season in offensive rebound percentage at 7.8%. In terms of the block percentage, another area where you have seen him be quite productive in limited action, he is in the 93rd percentile there at 1.8%. That is good stuff. There are only 3 players among forwards that have a higher block percentage, those being Manas Buzelis, Keegan Murray, and Derrick Jones Jr., all players within their own right that bring something a little bit different to the table, and Naquan Tomlin to be mentioned among them. That's pretty awesome. That truly is pretty awesome out there. In terms of the overall shot selection and accuracy from the field, I think what truly stands out to me is his ability to finish around the rim. It's not spectacular or anything from a statistical standpoint, but he is in the 60th percentile there at 67%. That is where the bulk of his shots come from, whether it be a putback opportunity, a transition play like we have seen time and time again from him, or cutting to the basket out of the dunker spot. These are all things that have been within his wheelhouse this season and last year in limited time. So very excited about the potential that he has. And I think when it comes to Tomlin, it truly all boils down to whether or not that three-point shot is going to fall in terms of longevity at the NBA level, at the pro level. He has got to be better than the sub 30% shooter from three-point distance if he hopes to stick long-term in the NBA. Hustle and energy are nice, but they'll only get you so far. So that's just me being transparent, me being objective. But this is a happy day because this is a guy who, again, he is very deserving of getting that extension. He's somebody that has worked his ass off to get to where he is. And I have nothing but respect for players like that, because for some people, honestly, for some players out there, they're gifted with these God-given talents, and they may not be the most physically gifted athletes of all time, but they're getting by the sheer talent that was just bestowed upon them by the good Lord. And Tomlin, while he may not be the most polished offensive talent, while he may not be the most technically sound defender, he is somebody that has gotten where he is because of pure heart, hustle, energy, and a take no shit mentality. And you love to see that. So I'm absolutely loving the fact that they have given him this runway to continue to develop. And honestly, it's kind of a perfect storm of events for him, just because entering the season, had everybody stayed healthy, really had everybody enter the season healthy, because Max Strus hasn't played all year. Dean Wade's been in and out of the lineup. Evan Mobley has been in and out of the lineup, et cetera, et cetera. You've seen multiple players, multiple rotational players miss time at various points during the season. And so that has opened up minutes in a role in the rotation more consistently than it would have entering the year, which has allowed him to blossom into this type of player. And I would have to hope that this was the vision that Kobe Altman and Mike Gansey and the rest of that front office saw when they initially brought him in. And it pays off. He is another case of a undrafted talent that has come through the gates at Rocket Arena and developed into a rotational caliber player. So kudos to the development staff here in Cleveland. They've really been churning players out left and right, whether or not they're here long term or not. They have been really pushing the envelope in terms of squeezing every bit of potential out of some of these guys. And that's a long line of players, whether it be Lamar Stevens, who is here for a number of years, whether that be Dean Wade, who's come through the program here, whether that be Craig Porter Jr., who is on his way up and honestly, sadly, may find himself out of rotation due to the sheer depth here. But again, these are guys who have been hidden gems, whether that be late second round picks or undrafted and on and so forth. So there's a long line of players, and that's without even mentioning a few others. And Tomlin fits right in there. And that's a great thing, because in this new current CBA, with second apron restrictions being what they are, the best defense against something like that is in-house player development. And the Cavaliers, as a team, as a unit, have done quite well for themselves in this area. And so I continue to hope to see Tomlin progress as time goes on. Now, I think that it does need to be mentioned again. I don't think he will be a playoff regular, at least entering the postseason. But it is very, very important to have guys like this on your roster for whenever you need to energize the rest of the rotation, or somebody else in that front court is absolutely struggling. And let's not be honest. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Let's be honest with ourselves. With the Cavaliers' lack of size, with so many different guard and wing types on the roster, you need somebody in the front court to be able to step up among the bunch. Thomas Bryant, he can provide what he can provide at the 5, but he's really limited in terms of positional versatility. Larry Nance Jr. can still provide in spot minutes, but he's not somebody that the Cavaliers should be leaning on heavily, especially with his injury history. You want to preserve him and play him in small stretches. Dean Wade is in and out of the lineup, and you never truly know when he is going to be available. And you get to Evan Mobley, who's dealing with a lot himself this year with calf strains. So this does open up avenues for him to get minutes in the playoffs, but I love to see it. And perhaps most importantly, in that regard, on a two-way contract, as I'm sure you're all familiar with by now, you are not eligible for the playoffs. So getting him on a standardized deal, that makes him playoff eligible. That's a big point of emphasis with this. I love it, man. I absolutely love it. And you guys know I'm a huge B-ball index person. I love to quote these statistics and put a little bit of film behind them most of the time. I can't do that right now just because I'm at the office, but he grades well in so many different areas over there. He is in the 96th percentile, so he's right up there with Dean Wade. Very important to remember. In defensive positional versatility, that is an A+ grade. He is ranked 24th out of 525 qualifying players there. He, in terms of interior defense, which is kind of important for a player like Naquan, who should theoretically, considering his God-given intangibles, the size and, the speed, everything out there, he should be impactful there as a help defender at the very least. He is in the 75th percentile in terms of rim protection. He is in the 79th percentile in terms of rim deterrence. And as a help defender, he is in the 67th percentile. That's not bad for what you need out of him. Out on the perimeter, is he switchable? Yeah, I think so. He's had some tough perimeter assignments as of late. We saw a couple of sequences in that Los Angeles Lakers game that was pretty cool to see out in the perimeter in terms of LeBron and Luka and whatnot. But in terms of pure isolation defense, he grades above average there in the 68th percentile. That's a B grade. In the passing lanes, he's pretty good there as well, 87th percentile. And at this point in time, right, we know what Naquan Tomlin brings to the table. He's going to cut to the basket from the dunker spot. He's going to spot up. He's going to run pick and roll as a pick and roll rollman at times. And he's going to put shots back at the rim. That's essentially what you're getting out of Naquan Tomlin right now. That's the type of player that he is. And there's no problem with that, considering what they need out of him on a night-to-night basis when he is there. I just hope to God that he is able to get to in the gym and work on that three-point shot, because that is what's holding him back the most right now. Because again, there's only so far you can go with heart and energy and hustle. There, don't get me wrong, there are guys who have carved entire careers out of doing that, but when you're talking about actually sustaining yourself at the NBA level and not just being like a 2 to 3 year guy or getting one contract and being done, it's truly about adding to your game. And for him, that quite honestly is the 3-point shot. And so with that being the case, let me go ahead and hop into the chat here just before I get out of here. Nolan 8129 says, yay. Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very excited about what Tomlin has done this year. I'm happy for him. Delaware says, was my favorite Cavs next to JA until the Harden acquisition. Jonah Quest says, emoji for, celebrations and whatnot. Did the Cavs win? Asks or says, yo, Mac Perry with the live stream. Always, man, always. HJ17 Gaming says, congrats, Tomlin. Elevated Wally says, I just texted him. MJ Jr. says he is worth $10 million a year, honestly. HJ also says he just needs to get in the lab with Tyson to work on his shot. Floyd Phillips II says, good, cheap contract. Absolutely. Accurate 11 says, salute, bro. I am a James Harden fan from Houston, being a Bone Thugs and Harmony fan. Yep, Cleveland stuff. So Cleveland is the city where we come from. So run. Yes, quoting Bone Thugs there. Wow. Cavs for the first chip. I think that when you look at what James Harden has brought to this table in these 2 short games, you see the potential that is there with this lineup. And this is without Evan Mobley, another huge piece. This is without Max. This is without Dean. Yeah, I mean, the potential is obviously there. The ceiling has raised. I mean, you could argue the floor has too, but just in seeing what Harden has brought to the table in these short games, combined with the additions of Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis, that's very exciting to me. King Meat 23 says, love the content. Really excited for Tomlin. Let's fucking go. Yeah. Jeffrey Champion says, when Evan Mobley comes back, would you consider playing him at the 5 and bringing Jarrett Allen off the bench? No. I mean, there's absolutely no way that you have seen Jarrett Allen over his last few games and say to yourself, let's bring him off the bench. I'm sorry. I see where you're going with that, but no. Over Jarrett Allen's, just to kind of put a bow on this, over Jarrett Allen's last 6 games on that Western Coast trip, for the most part, he has averaged 21.7 points, 11.2 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, a block, and a steal while shooting 70.9% from the field. Like, there is no world in which I could ever suggest that the Cavaliers bench Jarrett Allen for Evan Mobley. I love Evan, but to me, nah, he's the perfect pick and roll talent to put beside James Harden. I don't know how anybody could watch what we just watched and think otherwise, in my opinion. Floyd Fields II says, does this contract start this season or next season? I think that they have converted the deal. I think that is how this works. So if you're on a 2-way, I think it's converted. Don't quote me on that, but again, I think that's how that works. It's no longer a 2-way deal. He's now on a standardized deal. Accurate 11 says Allen is hooping his butt off. He absolutely is. Somebody that has been underappreciated for a long time from this fan base. A lot of people wanted to see him shipped off and moved. And listen, he deserves criticism at times. It's well documented. We don't have to really rehash anything in that regard, but he's also somebody that can and will lead you to victories if you actually utilize him. And James Harden and lately Donovan Mitchell, these guys are giving Jarrett Allen the opportunities that he just hadn't gotten earlier on in the season. And then obviously you do have to understand too that Allen, he missed time earlier this season with the hand injuries, the finger injuries, and that, believe it or not, had an impact, in my opinion, on his game. Now, if you ask me, if Allen had begun the season beside Harden, or you had a healthy DG all year, I think we're talking about a fringe all-star this year in Allen. And I understand that might be a divisive opinion, but I'm just saying, like, if you continuously feed this guy, he has shown that he can impact winning at a high level. King Meep says, I've always been opposed to trading Allen. Glad we didn't do that. I'm happy too. And for what it's worth, I'm kind of happy from a pure basketball standpoint they didn't trade Max too. Like, I would have understood it from a second apron standpoint, moving off the $16 million or so salary. But I think that keeping the group together, or this, like, sans Darius Garland, obviously, keeping some of the other core pieces in Allen, in Mobley, and Mitchell, it makes a lot of sense. So I think that there is merit to the Cavaliers' belief in the front court of Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley still for the remainder of the season. Because there was a lot of talk this year about going after Giannis, about trading JA for somebody that makes more sense next to Evan Mobley. I'm glad they didn't move on that. Nicotine 2977 says, do you think Larry might get waived if they could sign someone like Chris Boucher, or this is the roster, or the roster is set? To be quite honest with you, I don't see Larry going anywhere. Yeah, they could go after Chris Boucher. He is somebody that I wanted in the offseason. I made a video about it, a couple of videos about it actually, highlighting what he brings to the table. Still applies. Check that out if you guys haven't, or if you're new to the channel. But I don't think that they would waive Larry to get that accomplished. I don't think they will waive TB either, given the contractuals of it all and the guaranteed salaries and whatnot. So to be quite honest with you, I just don't see that happening. And I don't know if it's still legal, considering that they're in the second apron. I don't know. Boucher was bought out, right? Or is he waived? I can't remember, but we'll see. Accurate 11 also says Mitchell had 10 assists. I think that's what makes a championship. They are all unselfish. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've long been a proponent of not wanting to see Donovan Mitchell run the point, which is why having James Harden makes things a lot simpler for Don at that end, because the gravity that James Harden draws is big. I talked about this ad nauseum in the breakdown for Harden, but simply transitioning to more of the secondary creator, the secondary ball handler in Donovan Mitchell, that's great, because you don't have to ask him to be this lead guard out there. He can just play a little bit more freely, knowing that he can function as that secondary ball handler out there most nights with James running the point. And then they'll stagger their minutes, and that'll be that. Kenny Atkinson has some things to figure out in terms of rotation, especially once guys get healthy. But I can't lie, like, Donovan has looked much better alongside Donovan, alongside James Harden than I thought he would initially out of the gate. I had some concerns with the off-ball usage with both, but slowly but surely they've been productive even without the ball in their hands. Area, or Uriah HC, sorry if I mispronounced that, says, what do you think the rotation will be once healthy? If I had to, and this will probably be my last one, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Tyson, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. That's starting five to me. I understand a lot of people prefer Dean Wade start there. That's okay. But my starting five is James, Donovan, Tyson, Evan, Allen. My sixth man is very likely Dennis Schroeder. Keon Ellis has to play, so that is 7 already. Max Strus, I think, will play. That's 8. And Dean Wade would probably be my 9th guy. Sam Merrill probably plays before the likes of Keon Ellis. So those 10 players right there, and that's that bench right there. It is in no order. All I know is that they'll probably elect to have Dennis be that 6th man, but I do know that Sam, Keon, Max, Dean, and Dennis will all play. That's and it may not be as like huge chunks of minutes, but if they opt for a 10-man rotation, I think that's what they go with. I get that leaves them small. I understand that there's no true backup center in that, but I think that they'll adjust as needed. If you need to go matchup based, if you're having trouble with a big out there, yeah, you can throw TB out there. Yeah, you can give Larry some time. Naquan Tomlin will factor in there at points, but that would probably be my 10-man rotation. What really gets difficult is a 9-man rotation, but I don't think Kenny Atkinson will operate that way. But overall, before I get out of here, I just want to say I'm very, very happy that they chose to convert Naquan Tomlin's contract. I think the writing was on the wall for a while. We all saw it coming. They cleared space for him with the Lonzo move, and absolutely love the fact that we get to have him in-house because he is somebody that has exceeded expectations at this moment in time. If you're here by chance right now, hit that like button, hype the video up, subscribe. If you're not yet a subscriber to the Cavalier podcast, do the same for Positive Hooper. I could not get on here, although I'm at work. This is why I have these this setup here with me, this microphone and whatnot. Happy for Naquan, though. Go Cavs.